Hello everybody, welcome back to another layer by layer. Today we're going to wrap up last week's project. So last week we put together an enclosure for this week's project, which was a little mini time-lapse camera using the mini spy camera and Adafruit trinket. So this is the enclosure. Last week we created the kind of main case. We imported a bunch of components. We designed around them, and today we're going to make the case. My favorite part of this case is that it has these little nubs on the edges, and they kind of snap into these indentations that are inside of the lip of the case. And what's cool about that is that you can have these two pieces sandwiched together and stay together, so you can do things like this. Right. That would totally just break apart, split apart if there was just the lip with no nubs or indentations. So that's what I really like about this project. I've done it with a Pi Girl. We're going to do a little bit different this time around, but it has the same kind of principles and workflow. And why not do it again, right? Because it's nice. So let's go ahead and jump into Fusion 360. I'm going to start off with exactly... Did that work? No. There we go. I'm going to start off exactly where we left off. Let me hide this guy over here. This is where we left off. We made a couple of ports, for all the things that we want. And to start off with the case, I'm going to make sure that I activate the case component that we made. Now I'm going to, since I want to make a case right on top of this, why not just select that surface, the top of the surface of the enclosure, and then create a new sketch. And this one's basically going to be called our cover sketch. So from here, what I'm going to do is, it already got projected since I selected and created a sketch. It automatically projected these edges for me. So that means I can do an offset here and make sure chain selection is turned on. And it's already set up to -1, which is what I want. But actually what I want to do is have a little bit of offset here for clearance purposes. So I'm going to actually put -1.1. And that 1.1 is a little gap here that will allow the lip to be inserted into these walls of the enclosure. So I'm going to hit OK. And what I'll do next is select these three profiles to make like the whole rectangle shape. And then I'll hit E on my keyboard to extrude it. I'm going to type in 1. And I'm going to change the operation from join to new body so that it creates its own new body. And I'll hit OK. Then I'll name our body cover. And there we go. So now what I'll do next is turn off case. And why not turn off the components while we're at it so I can get a nice look at it. Again, using the shortcut key V. Turn those off. And I'll bring back the cover sketch and then select our little lid, our little lip area that we created with those offsets. And I'll hit E on my keyboard, and I want the lid to be about 2 millimeters. So I'll type in 2 here. But it's going downward, so I need to make it a negative value. So I'll hit -2 and make sure the operation is set to join. I'll hit OK. So now we can see that the thickness is 1.1 millimeters. So what I need to do next is make an offset, but push these faces inward by 1. I just find it easier to do that than to create another another offset like sketch. So I'm going to just hit Q on my keyboard for the press and pull command, and I'll click on one of these edges, and then I'll change the offset type from automatic to new offset. And now I can select multiple ones. So I can select by holding down command. Or actually, you don't have to hold anything down. Just click on the ones you want. So all these edges here that make up the outer wall. And then I'll do -0.1 of a millimeter. And then you can use the command key to kind of get a quick preview of how much it's going in. So everything's looking okay. All the edges are selected. I'll hit OK. And now if we do a quick measurement by selecting 2 edges, and looking down over here, it says it's 1 millimeter. So that's perfect. And now you have our little lid. Let's bring back the case. And what I'll do is do a section analysis. Let's turn on all the components too. Section analysis over here. And I can see inside of there. And you can see that there is a little bit of clearance. Perfect for 3D printing. All right, the next thing I want to do is actually need to create a hole for the camera, right? So to do that, I'm just going to select this face here, create a new sketch, and then I'll hide the case in the cover. Next thing I'll do is I'll project in that little lens circle piece here. So I'll hit P on my keyboard and just click on that circle. And then what I can do is I can use the circle tool, circle sketch tool, which is C. The keyboard shortcut is C on your keyboard. And I'll just click in the center of that projection, and then probably, let's look at it from the top down. again, C for circle. And then I'll make it a little bit wider than it needs to be. So maybe 7 millimeters looks good. So I'm going to do that. And I'll hit stop sketch. Now what I can do is kind of punch this hole out. So I got to select both of these profiles and then turn on the cover, hit E on my keyboard, and then I'll change the distance to object and then click on that inside bottom face. And now I can create a hole. Now that's okay, but actually one thing that might be better is to create some sort of like holder area so that it can hold on to the camera. So we can do that by, let's select this, let's hide that guy, and then select the inside surface here of the cover, and then we'll create a sketch like that. And then what I can do is I can just offset this guy here by 1 millimeter. That's perfect. Hit OK. And then what I'll do is I'll extrude this out. Just kind of pull this to kind of get I'm not sure exactly how tall it needs to be, but I think that's okay. What is this, 3.5? That's fine. I don't want it to go all the way. Maybe, what does 4 look like? 4 looks pretty good, actually. We can do 4. So that looks okay. And what you'll notice that there's a little cut here. I can hold down, or I can just click on that area. It'll turn into a cut. We don't want the cut. We want it to be a join. And that's pretty much it. So I'll hit OK. So now we have our little cutout for our lens, and our little kind of holder area thing for the body of the lens. It looks kind of deep in there, I know, but it didn't affect the camera from my point of view. So that seemed to work okay. Okay, the next things I'm going to do is create another cutout for the SD card. So if we leave the SD card as it is now, I'll just hide everything. Oops, bring that back. So you see it now, and we'll do activate the whole thing. It'll kind of be hard to get in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut a hole from the top area here. That's what I'm going to do. So to do that, I will again select, well, let's start naming these guys, right? So this was like the camera holder, or let's call it the lens holder. And this was like the lens cut, or the lens hole, I guess you'd call them. It's fine that we have two different, it just makes sense, fine. You know, you want to have, I could combine these into one sketch, but it's fine that they're two different ones, doesn't matter. Next thing I'm going to do is select that and create a new sketch. I'll hide the two guys so I can see our components. Oh man, see I messed up here. I did not activate the case component. So whoops, bad me. Let me do that again. Select, create a sketch, and then hide the guys. We'll use a rectangle to create this cutout. So I'm just going to kind of make one starting from over here, and we probably want to encompass a little bit like this. And then what I'll do is I'll project in this surface of the SD card holder. And then I can do some kind of constraints here, dimensioning them out. So I could say this needs to be 1 millimeter, and this right here, I won't be able to do that. So I'm going to manually drag this out, and then say this to that needs to be 1 millimeter, which I just kind of messed up. Let me do it again. It's too fast. Dimension that to dimension this, 1 millimeter, enter. And then from here to here, it doesn't really matter, maybe 0.5. Then hit stop sketch, and let's bring back the cover, and then I need to select these guys here, hit E on my keyboard, and then we'll change the extent to object, and then select that as the object and hit OK. Now one thing that probably didn't do right is if you look at the sketch, if you look at the case, it needs to cut through the case too. So let's go ahead and double click on that. Same thing, and then kind of remove that object selection, and then pick that as the object selection. Now Fusion says that can't. No, you can't do that. Well, yeah, of course you can. You have to change the chain faces has to be selected. Extend faces, and now it'll extend to that face. Hit OK. You see, it didn't cut it still. Let's go back in there. Open up objects to cut, and then make sure that all the objects are selected, including the case, right? So I'll hit OK. Sorry that took a little bit. That was kind of weird, but it's good that you went through that. I like fillets. Let's add fillets here, here, yeah, and here. Put one. One's a good value. Hit OK. Now this is nice, but it's kind of weird, right? So it's weird because there's now this giant opening, and it almost makes you question, should the case even be that thick? Yeah, it probably should. But instead of having this giant opening there, we could just kind of create some sort of guard here that extends down and just barely touches the metal piece of the SD card holder. So we can do that. I'll turn off the case, activate the case, because we're going to work on it, and then hide these guys. I'm doing that a lot. So I'll just do an offset here, right? So let's click on that surface, create a sketch, and I'll create an offset here. And I'm going to kind of hit no and say I don't want a chain selection, and then just select the edges that I want. So it'll be these guys over here. Let's start moving it back so you can get a better look at it. Oh, Fusion didn't like that. So let me select them first and then do my adjust. What? Fusion, come on. Help me out here, man. As soon as I pan and drag, it kind of disappears. That's not good. Oh, well, be aware of that. That might happen to you while you panning. It killed your selection. So anyway, I have this weird offset now. I'm going to put -1 because that's a good value. And then I'll grab that profile and extrude it out. How tall does it need to be? I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and bring back the components, or just one of the components. The one we really need is the spy camera while we're still trying to extrude. And you can see that's too much, so I'll bring it down. Actually, that's pretty good, 5. You get a little bit of clearance there. Maybe just to be super okay, 4.8 or something would be probably better, and hit OK. And that was already set to join. I didn't even look at it, but I'm sure the operation was set to join because it's still one body. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of a weird oddity here. There's still the lip there, so I need to extend that sketch. I could just jump back into that sketch. It's called this card guard, and I think this was like a card top cut because it was from the top. Let's go back into the guard thing, and I can just add some sort of, I don't know, rectangles here. So it'll be like that and that, right? And then I can hit stop sketch and then double click on that that feature in the timeline and just add them to the selection. And now you get this kind of more consistent guard that kind of encompasses and goes with the flow of the lip, whatever you want to call it. So let's take a look at this now. Let me turn everything on. Well, almost everything. I don't know what happened there. Somehow I started making a new sketch. All right. Let's bring back all of our components. Cool. And why not activate it? Cool. So there you go. So now you can see there's a teeny bit of an opening here on the edges here, but I think that's okay. For the most part, that big ugly gap is gone. And if we go back to overhead real quick, you can get a look of how it actually turned out. Actually turned out pretty well, right? You can barely see the opening there, but they're there. This way you actually get a much more access to open this thing out, right? So that works out really well. Cool. Give me a second, guys. Just want to make sure everybody in the chat room, thank you for joining me. I am streaming live. So if you're watching this on the pre-recorded, I am just looking at the chat, and thank you guys for joining today. If you have any questions, I'll take a look at them after the tutorial because I'm going to move on to the next part. So in the next part, we're going to add my favorite part, those little nubs. So let's go back into the CAD stuff. Here's the CAD mode. All right, so let's go ahead and start making our nub things. I'm going to start off with making it in the case. So I'm going to start on this side here. So what we want to do is make these little nubs, these little triangular nubs that kind of protrude out of this edge here. Now I've done this before, like on the Pie Girl case, and what I did there was I actually had that nub kind of extend and sort of loft across this little, or is it a loft or is it, what is this other one? Sweep? I think it kind of sweeps along this path here, but that can kind of cause a little bit of issues, mainly because if you want to take the case out, it could cause the thing to break, the lid to break, because, or the nubs themselves to break, because there's a lot of friction points, and if we just kind of make a single spot, it's a little bit better. So here's what I'll do. I'll click on that edge, the inner wall here of this enclosure, and hit the create sketch button. And then I can find the center here. This is going to be like a reference line. So see that right there, the little triangle? That's the center of this profile that's been sketched out and it's been projected. And it doesn't matter how big it is as long as it's like a straight line, right? And then what I'll do is I'll use the center rectangle tool, and I'll kind of draw out over here. It just makes sense. So I'll do 2 by 10. So it's going to be 2 inches or 2 millimeters tall by 10 millimeters wide. And then what I can do is I can do a collinear and say I want this edge to line up right with that edge there. Okay. Now I can extrude this out to 1 millimeter, like that. Join is what we want as the operation. Hit OK. And now this is a nub, but to kind of make this print friendly, we're going to select these 2 edges and then create a chamfer. Chamfer. Make it 1. And now I get this triangle, right? This perfect triangle here. So this is the little nub that is going to snap into our lid, but we kind of need to make an indentation now on the lid of the cover. So take this out. If we go and make a section analysis, kind of cut through here, you can see right there that our nub is intersecting, and it's kind of weird right here. Let me see. There you go. You can see that's not going to work too well. So we actually need to add some material, some geometry to the inner lining of the lid here, the lip, so that we have material to cut away from. So let's do that. Let's hide the cover and hide the case, not the cover. Let's get rid of the analysis, hide the components. And it was this guy here. So we're actually going to add some stuff here. So I'll head to create sketch. Fusion flipped me all over the place. No problem. Just reorient yourself. Use the line tool. We're going to create that same kind of reference point that we did. I don't know. Maybe there's an easier way that you know to create the center point, but here's how I do it. So I'll do the center rectangle again. We're basically doing the same thing. 2 by 10. Hit enter. I'm going to collinear this guy here to that guy at the bottom, so it's nice in there. Hit stop sketch, select the profile, and extrude out to about 1 millimeter. One thing I'll do though is I'll also add some chamfers to these edges. 1 millimeter. This one too. See here, kind of smooths it out a little bit and gives you more material to work with. All right, so now I got the inside. Now I have plenty of kind of material to work with to cut an indentation here. So let's do that. So with that selected, create a new sketch, reorient myself. Fusion loves to reorient you. Where's the center? I don't know. Right there. All right. And then I'll create my center rectangle. I wish there was a hotkey for center rectangle tool, because I keep hitting R, but that's not the one I want. This is going to be I can't type anything, unfortunately. See, I'm doing it again. Center rectangle, click. It must be a problem with whatever is being focused. Let's click away. Sometimes this helps. There we go. But that's the wrong tool. Center rectangle, click. Oh man, this is just killing me, guys. I'm just gonna have to manually do this. Has anyone ever had that problem too, where it's like focusing and stuff? That needs to be 2. That's great. All right, so now we can use collinear and try to wrap this terrible process up. All right, Actually, I don't want it to be 2. I want it to be 1 millimeter, like that. Hit stop sketch. Now that we have this kind of weird thing here, I'm going to select that profile, hit E on my keyboard, and hit -1, because that's how much we want to go inside. And then what I'll do is I'll select this edge and add a chamfer, apply a chamfer to it, 1 millimeter. Okay. So that's our indentation. So let's bring back the case, turn on our section analysis, and you can see here that you can see that there's actually already a clearance for our tolerances, and that's because we already offset it and we were working off the same surface. So of course it already has a chamfer. But you could also add, you could probably add a chamfer to this edge here, like that. I just applied it to the existing chamfer, so it's doing the 2 things. So that looks pretty good. Cool. Now, one thing I would do, though, is watch this. I'm going to turn off the section analysis and turn off the case. And then what I'll do is I kind of want some clearances from these edges, because right now the nub is like, it has clearances for these 2, but not for this side and that side. So what we can do is go back into the sketch and just make it 11. And it'll kind of expand outwards because the center, it's a center rectangle, so it's kind of nice. So now we have, instead of 10, it's 11, so we have like 0.5 millimeters of clearance on the left and right, which is pretty good. But it's up to you to determine how much kind of tolerances and clearances you want to have. But that's essentially it. We basically do that for all the edges here, and I'll give you a quick look at what it looks like in this set and on the final version, because I don't want to have to do the same thing 4 times. So it's the same process for all of these little nubs that I did on every side. So you got those 4 nubs. You know, I didn't have to add one here, I just added one there, and it seemed to work out well. And here's the top with all the indentations on the sides. You got to be really cautious about, you see how it kind of merges into the lid. And I added like a chamfer here and to kind of give it more strength. But that worked out really well. So there's the whole case. Again, you want to make sure, what I was trying to say earlier is you want to make sure that you have no intersection problems, and when you turn all these things on, make sure you do a section analysis and make sure that nothing is kind of touching. You can almost see here that this whatever USB port from the mini spy camera is almost touching, but it's not touching, so it's good. It's fine. And there's plenty of clearances and stuff for wires, and because there is a bit of excess wire from the battery cable, so you just want to make sure you have enough clearances. But that's about it, guys. That's how you can make an enclosure using little nubs and indentations and lids and all that good stuff. So I guess now's a good time to take some questions. If anybody has any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm just kind of cleaning this up a bit, and I'll go over to the overhead. How's the audio? Is the audio okay? Looks okay. Fusion 360 is buggy, has gotten better, says Jeff. I agree. You know what? It only happens to me when I'm doing a live stream. I think it's because it has something to do with Fusion. It has something to do with Wirecast and the way it's kind of processing the Windows selections and things. So hey, I think that's it. Ramus says it's a pain. I have to restart Fusion to remedy that error. Aw, man. Yeah, that will usually fix it. I agree. Sometimes what helps me is swapping from different documents will kind of refresh that thing. I can't pronounce your name, but the person with the Android thumbnail says, nice project. Thank you. The little Android bot. I'm not sure who Murphy is. Who's Murphy? Hello. Giovanni, hello there. He's in Italy. Thank you for tuning in today. What time is it in Italy? Writer's asking, kind of unrelated, but do you know if you can use dry erase markers on PCB silk screens as you would on a whiteboard? I said give it a try. I'm not sure. Hello, WCHS Engineering. Welcome to the chat room. Just hanging out today. And hey, you know what? Let's take the opportunity now to take this apart, right? So there's a kind of a little trick to take this apart. It's kind of really tough. So what I end up doing is I dig my nail into this guy, right? So hopefully you can see it. And then I have to kind of pull. You see that? That just unclicked. And just kind of drag your finger across the whole thing. Then you have enough leverage to kind of pop this out. Oh boy, that is good. And then you kind of have to work your way onto the other one. And there's still a lot of clicking there. And there she is. Dun dun dun. And this is very, very strong. I've opened this quite a few times now. And these little nubs, because they're printed and they're kind of, integrated into the wall, they're very, very tough. I think the only way to kind of break them would be to literally like cut them off. And even then, that would be kind of tough. But the lid is nice and strong, even at 1 millimeter. This is, just the HT PLA coffee PLA from Protopasta. And it worked out really well. This isn't enameled. I didn't heat this up, so it's just regular PLA as far as I know. But yeah, if you print this out and this like crumbles apart in your hand, then you might have an under extrusion problem. So it's very, very strong. And one thing I think is worth noting is that the clearances for this project, it really is 0.1 millimeters. For projects like the Pie Girl, where the case is, a little bit bigger, like that big, that one needed 0.2 millimeter tolerance clearances. And I'm not sure why the smaller we went, the kind of, the smaller the value had to be. I don't know why that is, but that's what it is, because I did print this out several times with 0.2, and that was just way too loose. So I needed to be a little bit tighter. So your tolerances will vary. I've given this so much abuse. It just will not pop open. I apologize if that hurts your ears. I didn't even think of that. Sorry, guys. Back in the chat room. Do you think writer's asking if I think the nubs will ever wear out. I hope not, but I don't think so. If they do, I will let you know, man. Oh wow, Ramus is saying this is like the TV channel of my dreams. Keep up the good work. That is so. Thank you so much for that comment. I really appreciate that. Thank you. What steps do you need to take from Fusion to get this 3D printed? Oh yeah, sure. That's a good one too. Let's do that. So that was a question from Noam. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's a good one. So here's what I would do. Here's what I do. Is I bring these out. I save them out as STL, so you can right click on the body that you want and hit save as STL. And you would hit OK, and then it would save it in a whatever folder. But a quicker way to do it is to right click, save as STL, and then bring it directly into, if you open this output thing, it'll give you an option to select Cura or whatever slicer you like. I'm a Simplify 3D guy, so I'm going to use Simplify 3D. And it'll open it for you if you don't have it open. Which is taking a little bit. There it is. And you can see I still have like an old file in there, so I'm going to delete that. Problem is that you should probably save out the STL. This is just for kind of quick sake. So I'm using a PrinterBot Play right now, so I have that profile selected. And normally what I do is, I just run through the settings real quick. There's nothing much I really change. I'm using a 0.4 nozzle with a 100% extrusion multiplier, 1 millimeter retraction. There's so many settings to go through, but real quick, the layer height's at 0.2. Top and bottom layers are 4. One thing I like to have is use only thin walls for perimeters under the thin wall behavior, which is under the advanced tab. That way when you render it out, watch what happens. I'll prepare this to print. You can get a good look at what the layers are going to look like. So you can see that is a very, very kind of clean, solid line. They're very close to each other, so I don't need that. And you can see how the nub gets built. They're just literally like 10 layers or so, maybe more, maybe less. But that's how it comes out. And of course, you don't need any support material for them because they're chamfers. They're 45-degree angles. And it's basically 100% infill if you think about it, for the perimeter anyway, the walls. So that works out well. But if you had this set to something like 100% or 50%, I think that's the highest you can go for the allow gap. It's like saying, hey, if there's a gap, fill it in. Sometimes I think that option, it does more harm than good, but from right now, it doesn't look like it did anything. So, okay, that's fine. That's basically it, though. It's pretty straightforward. The orientation's already good for me. Don't have to worry about anything. Don't need any supports, like see that massive overhang there for like the USB port. You really don't need it. You don't need any support there. Your printer's able to, most printers are able to kind of catch that if you have like nice active cooling. So let's take a look at that. The overhead, you can see that I mean, it looks completely straight. Like there's not even any drooping. There's a bit of a problem with this focusing. There we go. Let's see if we can get really close in there. So you can see that there's not much drooping at all there. That is incredible how the printer bot is able to do that. Or most printers really. There's maybe a minor bit of drooping, but not a lot. And then there would be drooping here, but there isn't any there. And I guess it's the type of PLA too. This PLA is awesome. So I think that's it. Those are the only overhangs. Cool. It does look kind of deep in there, the lid or the housing for the camera lens, and it looks like a little off, but it's as close as I could get it, because again I had to draw this with calipers, like measure this with calipers, so I don't have exact measurements from their schematic or their tech drawings, because they don't have any. So you had to do the best with what you got. But that's kind of a basic how to get it into Simplify 3D. Good question. Alrighty, I'm looking at the chat now. When learning to 3D print, would you recommend that I get my own 3D printer to learn or to use a 3D printing service? Is saying David Meir. I would highly recommend getting the 3D printer if your budget allows. There's some really affordable options now. As low as $200. I think there's even a $150 one now. But the Mini Select from Monoprice is a really low option that I think and it would totally fit this project. This project is right within the bounds of a 100 by 100 print bed. So yeah, definitely get the printer, because when you're sending it off to somebody to print it, even if it is somebody local, it's going to take time. And when you have it right here and right now, I literally have it behind me, you can iterate so fast and learn so much by having it in your hands and always going back and forth with it. All right. Oh, cool. Pager's in the chat room. Thank you, Pager, for monitoring. Oh, cool. So Ramus is asking if we have any videos on finishing 3D prints, like sanding, filler, priming, painting, that sort of thing. We have one video, and it's really connected to the project. So we have one project that just did that for many weeks on end, where we just kept sanding and coming up with different things, and that is the Daft Punk helmet, the Thomas Bangler version. So you can find that. I'll link to it. And Finishing Wood, that's another one. Finishing Wood is a good one, but mainly the Daft Punk one, because it's like super smooth and incredibly polished and finished, because it was weeks of sanding. Pedro kind of took the lead on that project and did all the experimentation on that, so he could speak to it more than I can, but most of the tips are in that project and in that learning guide for that project. Which type of material, what type of finishing materials we use, etc. Cool. Yeah, thanks. Do check it out. Awesome. Well, this has been a nice Layer by Layer live edition. Appreciate you guys for coming. It's been now 35 minutes-ish. So I'm going to kind of cut the stream, and I'll get working on the next project. Yeah, I was going to do a sneak peek, but it's okay. We'll do that next time. Cool, this was fun. I'll try to do more of these live streamed. If you are watching this pre-recorded, not real set time for them, but just follow Adafruit on the social channels, and you'll get notified when we go live. Another thing we rarely say is if you do want to if you want to catch all the videos from Adafruit, make sure you click that the little bell icon next to the subscribe icon, so that you'll get an email notification exactly when we go live. So cool. Again, thank you guys for watching. Good luck with all your maker endeavors, and until then, keep on making. Bye, guys.